Hey, this is Laura from Teacup Line, and I'm going to show you how to put the head together. So I have the finished back of the head, front of the head, one ear, and I'm working on the second ear right now. So turn it right side out and use like a chopstick or stuffing tool to push the tip of the ear out. Right here, there should be a letter, so just fold the tip of that ear to the letter and pin in place. Make sure that the ears match. They do, this width. So then you're going to match this edge of the ear to the notch on the front of the head and pin in place. I like to place my pins on the wrong side of the plush so that they're easier to remove when sewing. This pin that you previously used right here might get in the way, so you can pull it out and repin, including the face fabric. As you pin the ear to the front of the head, make sure the edges match correctly. If the ear is too far into the face, then the raw seam might show through when the head is done. So always make sure that there's enough fabric for that 1/4 inch seam allowance. If the two pieces of fabric for the ear are giving you trouble, you can always use a basting stitch to hold the two into place. Before you're pinning the ear, you want to make sure that the inside of the ear is facing the front of the plush. Otherwise your ear will be backwards. And the edge of the ear. And you'll repeat for the other ear as well. So right around the center of the ear, I want to check and see where this end will end up at. So it looks like I pinned just maybe 3/4 of a centimeter into the muzzle white. So I can go ahead and pin this side too. So now that the ears are in place, if you'd like to at this stage, you can actually whip stitch or single stitch or basting stitch the ears in place onto the head. Just for speed, I'm going to include the back of the head right now. So line up the middle top seam and pin. Ears are sandwiched inside of the head. I'm going to line up the neck seam, one side and pin, and the other. Okay, so now you can continue pinning the front of the head to the back of the head. Pressing the fabric flat against each other. And I'm going to do the ear last, since that's the tricky part. And I want these seams to line up correctly before I get to the ear. Then I'll know about how much fabric I have left to work with. Okay. So this is actually quite a lot of fabric with the ear. It's 4 layers of minky, and then where the seams of the ears are, that's 2 more. My sewing machine can handle this. It's a Janome Memory Craft 6300. The motor does seem to work harder going over 6 layers of minky at once, so I use the hand crank to go over those tough parts. I have done this plush before, and I used hand sewing, a backstitch, when I didn't want to machine sew. Or if I had a weaker sewing machine, then I would definitely hand sew the really thick parts. It's a good way to burn out a sewing machine motor if you go over a seam that's too thick for the machine to handle. So I'm pressing the ear fabric flat to the back of the head fabric as I'm pinning this. So you can see I'm using a lot of pins, which is good. It gives me excellent control. So I would just repeat the same for this side, continuing to pin around, and then when I'm finished, sew with 1/4 seam allowance around the head, leaving the neck open, and then afterwards clip the edges to allow the fabric to move around easily. That's it for this step. Thank you for watching.